Welcome inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams. This week, we meet the woman behind the popular TikTok account Appalachian Forager. She makes jam from pawpaws and jewelry from coyote teeth.
I like taking anything from the frickin' woods, bringing it home and turning it into something beautiful, useful, because that's just how I am, you know.
We sit in on a master class in foraging for wild mushrooms.
There are old mushroom hunters and there are bold mushroom hunters, but there are no old, bold mushroom hunters.
And when a West Virginia pastor got assigned to a new church, folks tried to warn him.
Oh, you're going to the egg church. Didn't matter who I was talking to. Oh, you're going to the egg church. And I said, okay, well, that'll be interesting. And then, oh, you're not ready.
You'll hear these stories and more this week inside Appalachia. Welcome inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams. Here in central Appalachia, it's spring planting season. Gardeners are dropping seeds in the ground with hopes of a good harvest later this year. Folks in the mountains also gather food and medicine from the forest. Foraging is an acquired skill. It's not easy to learn without someone to guide you. With the internet, it's become a lot easier to meet folks in online communities devoted to mushroom hunting and using native plants. One woman in eastern Kentucky made a name for herself online as Appalachian Forager, and her videos have gone viral. In 2024, Folkways reporter Amanda Page visited Appalachian Forager and had this story.
In the butt crack of that tree, that's a lion's mane.
This is Appalachian Forager.
And I'm going to have to use my hillbilly ingenuity to get it because she's high up.
It's the social media account of East Kentuckian Whitney Johnson.
You want me to get below it and try to catch it?
Yeah,
While you poke it?
yeah.
In this Instagram reel, Whitney is cheering on her boyfriend who's attempting to knock a mushroom down from a tree with a stick.
Yes, Daddy. You know what Mommy likes in a mushroom stick? Look at that fork! Yeah.
In another more fast-paced reel, she's in her kitchen, cooking with pawpaws. She mixes the yellow pulp from this native fruit with sugar and pectin to make jam.
Arm is tired. Keep stirring. After that, remove the baby from the heat and transfer it to your Canon command station. What's on mine? It's a tea towel laid out with a dry paper towel to lay stuff on, a damp paper towel, ladle, tongs, Canon funnel, a jar grabby dooflarchy, and yes, honey, a fan because your girl runs hot. Real hot. I sterilized 13 jars in my water bag.
Appalachian Forager's videos are highly entertaining, but the account is not just for show. Because in real life, Whitney forages, cooks, and makes tinctures because it's what she loves to do. I've come to meet Whitney IRL. In real life, she uses a four-wheeler so she can cover more ground on her family's property in eastern Kentucky. It's pawpaw season, so we're headed out to find some. Whitney takes us in the direction of the Big Sandy River. We stop at a tree loaded with pawpaws.
So I'm going to stop us right here. What we're going to do first, is we'll get off here. You see, look at that big cluster right there.
Oh my goodness.
So,
But Whitney says she doesn't shake the tree or pick fruit from it. She only gathers pawpaws once they've fallen on the ground.
they let you know when they're ready. So if you shake the tree, sometimes they'll come off when they're not quite ripe. And pawpaws are not ones that you can put in your windowsill and get them to be softer. They are what they are. So you're doing yourself a disservice if you shake the tree.
We could have gone foraging deeper in the woods today, but Whitney chose this section along the river for a reason.
Well, riverbanks give you different stuff than, say, the woods would. So you're going to have different types of soil, different types of trees, different types of terrain.
She says here, by the river, she has a pretty good idea of what she'll find. Along with pawpaws, this is where she finds berries. But in the woods, she's never certain what she'll find.
It's honey, you don't know. It can be anything. And I like that. I like to find new stuff and be surprised.
It might just be that element of surprise that makes Whitney's social media presence so appealing to her followers. Appalachian Forager started in 2020 with posts on her personal Instagram account. She grew up foraging and decided to document her outings.
I would post a picture of a mushroom and say, this is a blotadol and you can eat it or it'll kill you or whatever.
But at first, her posts didn't really catch on.
And some of my buddies were like, TikTok, you need to get on TikTok. And I was so anti-TikTok. But I got on there and I made this poorly put together intro video that was I'm Whitney and These are things that I plan to do on my TikTok. Follow me if that tickles your pickle. And it just like, psh.
Appalachian Forager took off. She's now got more than 845,000 TikTok followers, and her Instagram account has more than 123,000 followers. But Whitney's not in it for the clicks. She's a licensed mental health therapist. She works part-time. On her days off, she says she's romping in the hills, foraging.
These go hand in hand for me because as a therapist, I preach self-care all day. You know, make sure you're doing what you love, make sure you're taking care of yourself. And I get that through my relationship with nature.
She says she doesn't force advice, but she's asked patients if they've considered going for a walk in nature or taking photos and journaling.
And I suggest that because I know how much it helps me.
She says eventually she'd like to specialize in ecotherapy, where she'd encourage patients to go out in nature to improve their mental health.
I want people to connect with Mama Nature. So like the hills and the woods are my church. And if you can connect in that way and get, you know, that serotonin boost like I do from it, do it. And, you know, it's nice to be able to go out and get some free food too. You get up.
After our time on the riverbank, we hang out on Whitney's porch and have a pawpaw tasting.
Oh, it's a good. It's a good.
Oh, wow.
Yay, nay.
I had only tried pawpaws one other time. Much better than the last one I had. The one that we were talking about putting in my oatmeal, it was like a vague vomit taste.
That's because it wasn't ripe, see? This is why you want them to be like almost rotten looking, because that is when they taste the best.
After we eat pawpaws, I ask her about her earrings. I've been admiring them all day. She tells me they're made with coyote teeth she found in a ditch.
I like taking anything from the frickin' woods, bringing it home and like turning it into something beautiful, useful, because that's just how I am, you know. And I think that's how I was raised. Do what you can with what you have.
That's often how her meals come together, too.
I always try to pull from, you know, old-timey, mamaw, papaw, like plate-breaking, like gut-busting foods, you know, like good garden foods, like green beans and like chicken and dumplings, just like good down-home food.
She says she incorporates foods she finds in the woods with those simple Eastern Kentucky dishes.
So it's kind of like taking the two and fusing it together. Because I want to stay true to that part of me, because that's how I grew up. And I mean, honestly, that's my favorite food that's out there is, you know, throw some bacon grease in it and it's going to be good.
She tells me about a mountain dish she shared with her followers called killed lettuce and onions.
Killed lettuce and onions is pretty much just like wild greens or lettuce with bacon grease poured on top of it. Start out by frying you up some piggy strips. Yes, bacon, honey. We're using bacon. Get your 4 big green onions and give them a chop. And I posted that video and so many people were like, oh my God, like, I haven't had that in forever. I totally forgot that was something I loved as a kid. So I like to revive those old dishes and have people like, in this day and age, be making those old, you know, wholesome down-home meals. Once the bacon cools down enough to get my paws on it, I'm going to rip it up just like I have done with every fishing ticket that a game warden has given me.
Whitney's bringing that revival of old dishes to hundreds of thousands of followers online. Her followers ask questions in the comments and share tips they've learned from making the recipes she shares. They're doing what she's doing. She's foraging for the TikTok generation. But she says she won't be changed by social media.
I'm going to stay true to who I am. I don't plan on doing anything crazy, selling out and becoming like some crazy boss babe thing. I'm just going to stay in the holler and pick my mushrooms and make some little videos. Look at it.
We'll be here to watch them. For Inside Appalachia, I'm Amanda Page.
And like I said, this whole bowl's for me, so supper is served. And you know it's good when you stand at the kitchen counter and just devour it. Now y'all go and try this because it is so good it'll make your tongue slap your brains out.
Here along the Blue Ridge, where I live, it's almost morel season. Mushroom hunting has always been a part of Appalachian culture, but in recent years, it's become almost an obsession for some. In 2023, Folkways reporter Wendy Welch spent time with fungi enthusiasts in Virginia and West Virginia. She brought us this story.
It's an overcast but hot morning, and I'm in the backseat of a car on the way to hunt for mushrooms.
Mushrooms have been so hot lately. They might be like the superstars, you know?
That's Amy McLaughlin. Her husband, Sean Means, is driving. We're talking about the mushrooms that are featured in the hit show The Last of Us. They're called cordyceps. In the show, cordyceps mutate and eat people's brains. In real life, they don't do that, at least not to people.
There are mushrooms that are parasitic, and they do have the same name, the genus, as the ones in that show. But at this time, we do not believe that they will inhabit human bodies. Well, they do take over bugs.
Bugs?
Yeah, they absolutely do. Cordyceps, they get inside of the bugs into their nervous system, and they do take over them. When the fungus is ready to produce the fruiting body, it kills the bug and comes up out of the bug.
Wow. Sean and Amy are West Virginia master naturalists. They run a boutique vacation rental called Lafayette Flats in Fayetteville, next to the New River Gorge National Park and Preserve. They lead ecotours for people who stay in their flats, pointing out unique flora, fauna, and fungi in the area. If you want mushrooms in your life, there are two main paths to follow: farming or foraging. Misidentifying a fungus to use as food or medicine can be lethal, so foragers tend to hunt in packs until they're experts. Experienced hunters like Amy and Sean teach the newbies. As we disembark, Sean quotes a proverb known to every mushroom enthusiast in America.
There are old mushroom hunters, and there are bold mushroom hunters, but there are no old, bold mushroom hunters.
In other words, it's a good idea to be careful when hunting fungi. The couple lead me into the forest. Birdsong fills the air and dry leaves crackle underfoot, which is a bad sign, Sean points out. Mushrooms proliferate after rainfall. A mushroom, known officially as a fruiting body, is the smallest part of a larger living organism that needs a lot of water and can cover miles, all out of sight to the human eye.
You're in the woods and you see the trees and you see the mushrooms, and then if you just stop and think, the vast majority of the fungus is underneath us, and just think about that for a minute, like the dark soil, the earth underneath us, and that huge organism that's under there that's pushing all the fruiting bodies up. I think that's fascinating to think about.
There are also mushrooms that grow from wood rather than soil, but today we're hunting chanterelles, which do grow in the ground. It's not going well.
I don't see any mushrooms at all.
Chanterelles would have been easy to spot had any been around. They're popular for teaching new foragers because of their bright yellow color and distinctive fluted edges that make them look like a tiny trumpet. They're hard to mix up with any other mushroom, but not impossible.
There's one called a jack-o'-lantern mushroom, and it doesn't really, once you learn the difference, it doesn't look anything like a chanterelle. It has very different characteristics, but it's kind of the same collar. So if you were a newbie and you just were, going through the woods and saw that collar, it's possible you could get excited, and those are poisonous. They're not going to kill you, but they're going to make you sick.
We find the target of our hunt after just a few minutes, but it's a disappointment.
One chanterelle, and it's old.
Not every mushroom hunt is successful. After another fruitless half hour, we leave the woods. Lucky for me, Sean and Amy have promised to take me back to their house and cook up some mushrooms they've already foraged. In their well-appointed kitchen, decorated with mushroom art, Sean hauls a double handful of fungi foraged yesterday from the fridge. When I find out the plan for eating the chanterelles, though, I briefly consider making a run for it. Sean cooks down the little fluted trumpets in butter until they're lightly crispy, mixes in a small amount of honey, and serves this over vanilla ice cream.
And now we eat.
It turns out that chanterelle ice cream sundaes are actually very tasty.
Oh, good. Wasn't it good?
Mushroom hunting with experts is also a rare treat. But if learning to identify the roughly 2,500 species that grow in central Appalachia feels daunting, try mushroom farming. It's safer, simpler, and less subject to the vagaries of rainfall. To home-grow mushrooms, all you need is a log or a cardboard box and some spawn.
Well, we are mushroom farmers for 8 years, but originally we started on log and buying spawn and inoculating logs, and then moved on to buying spawn and growing oysters in straw.
That's Ben Harder. He runs Den Hill Farm and Fungi in Christiansburg, Virginia. The farm offers workshops on cultivating fresh mushrooms, and business is booming. One of his most popular workshops teaches people to inoculate logs with spawn, also known as mycelium. Inoculating a log means drilling a hole and pushing the mycelium into the wood. There it will feed and be fed in a symbiotic relationship, taking in carbohydrates from the log, then pushing out B vitamins and minerals like potassium through the fruiting body. I caught up with Harder while he was vending at the Blacksburg Farmers Market, and he shared his personal interest story into mushroom farming.
I started a vegetable farm. I was a horticulture student. Things were going all right, but one day at the farmer's market, a Appalachian Trail through hiker that happened to live in Blacksburg was coming through, and they were trying to sell these shiitake logs that they had inoculated so that they could finish the Appalachian Trail. It was amazing to see this log that probably had 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds of mushrooms growing out of it. It just kind of blew my mind that mushrooms were taking this waste product, a log worth nothing but firewood, and making a high value retail product out of it. They're making something out of nothing. And so he sold me the logs. That year I killed them because I left them inside a barn and they dried out. But the next year I started inoculating logs. And from there, it's kind of been a steady growth.
In just a couple of years, they went from vending 100% fruits and vegetables to 40% produce and 60% fungi. Their best-seller home-growing method isn't logs, though. It's a countertop kit.
Doing the tabletop farm or the mushroom fruiting block on your counter, it's really quite the experience. It looks so beautiful. It's like a living bouquet.
Countertop box kits were everywhere during the pandemic, and they've stuck around. Harder sells bags of spawn you put in your own box. Walmart sells cardboard blocks full of specific spawn. Stash the open box in a dark corner of your kitchen counter. Keep it wet but not soaking, and in a couple of weeks,
you can just kind of see it come, and then when it's at its prime, you get to just pluck off the mushrooms and eat them. And they even last a while in the fridge. You can keep them for a week or two. So it's a lot of fun and like a learning experience to see how mushrooms work and be able to get to do it again in 2 weeks because most of them fruit again. It's a real blast.
And educational. Den Hill sells the bulk of their fungal products to families with young kids.
It's really been amazing seeing the youth, especially like 5 to 12-year-olds that are really showing interest in coming out of the woodwork.
Mushrooms tend to capture young imaginations for many reasons, not least because they capture environmental toxins. When Harder explained this to me, his enthusiasm was infectious.
When mushrooms eat toxic chemicals like plastics or oil spills, like oyster mushrooms can live on an oil spill, clean it, and produce safe mushrooms to eat. It's really incredible.
Harder also delights in vegans and experimental chefs growing tabletop farms for the joy of eating those fresh fruiting bodies, sometimes as an alternative to meat. Two of the most popular countertop mushrooms are lion's mane, which tastes like lobster, and oyster, which tastes like mushrooms. When it comes to a kitchen kit, the world's your oyster.
We probably have 24 different types of mushrooms in our culture library that we're actively growing.
The farming and foraging worlds aren't mutually exclusive. Most mycelium appreciation communities tend to be friendly with each other regardless of methodology. Harder thinks this is in part because mushrooms are so hyperlocal.
So I think mushrooms create community by having to be a decentralized system where cultures and strains and mushroom fruiting bodies can be sold and traded locally because of their lack of shippability and kind of regional availability.
Kits bring mushrooms safely and easily into your home. For the thrill of a woodland hunt, don't go it alone, hunt down a mushroom club. They're prolific in Appalachia. Foraged or farmed, fungi can be fantastic fun. For Inside Appalachia, I'm Wendy Welch.
That story and the one before it are part of our Folkways reporting project, which covers arts and culture in our region. You can find more Folkways stories at our website, wvpublic.org. Later in the show, April showers bring May flowers, but what happens when it's meat raining down from the sky? You're Inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams.
Support for Inside Appalachia is provided by the Charleston, West Virginia Convention and Visitors Bureau, Charleston WV, where scenic trails and on-the-water adventure meet cultural experiences in the capital city of West Virginia. Your adventure begins here at charlestonwv.com.
We celebrate all kinds of things in the lead up to spring. There's Groundhog Day, Mardi Gras, and St. Patrick's Day. And then one you probably haven't heard of. The people of Bath County, Kentucky celebrate an odd bit of history. In 1876, pieces of meat fell out of the sky and onto a farm. 150 years later, why that happened is still a mystery. Sherry Lawson for the Appalachia Mid-South Newsroom has more.
At the Bath County History Museum in rural Kentucky, dozens of people crowd around Kurt Godey. He's a professor at Transylvania University in Lexington.
We believe it's a sample from the meat rain of 1876.
He's holding a glass jar with the meat sample in a clear liquid. Godey has been fascinated with the meat shower for over 20 years.
And the pieces that rained in that storm ranged from the size of a hailstone to the size of Rebecca Crouch's hand.
Rebecca Crouch is the woman who witnessed the meat shower 150 years ago. She was outside making soap on her Bath County farm when pieces of what appeared to be raw meat rained on her under cloudless skies. In line to see the meat is Andrew Cruzy. He has a cabin in eastern Kentucky and has heard the meat shower story for years.
It's wild. You know, it's one of those things that you hear about and you assume it's kind of urban legend, but it's actually, there's a piece of it.
Some, like Sasha Reinhardt, are having their picture taken with the jar of meat. She believes she's a descendant of the Crouch family who experienced the meat rain.
It's definitely part of our oral tradition. Of course, you know, Appalachia is really big on storytelling, oral tradition, and this was always a favorite.
150 years ago, the story was heavily publicized in the New York Times and in scientific journals. There were several theories about what it was and why meat fell out of the sky. Theories ranged from it being a sign from God to a hoax, but Godey says the most accepted theory is that the meat was vulture vomit.
And the idea ultimately there is that a flock of vultures was flying high enough above the farm that when Rebecca Crouch was hit with the meat, she looked up, she couldn't see them, and the whole flock disgorged at the same time.
He says they tested the meat in the university's gene sequencer.
Ultimately, the strands were not long enough to be completely conclusive. So we don't know exactly what it was, but we do know that it's closest to a goat.
It was one of those things as a child growing up here in Bath County that you learned it from your parents.
That's Ian Corbin, who grew up here.
We even had like a week in school where you had your local history of Bath County and you learned about it.
Now he has organized a festival around the event. He orchestrates meat-themed games in the town square, like a meatball toss and a bologna throw, where a thick piece of bologna is hurled like a frisbee. Vendors line the streets and sell things like T-shirts and mystery meat chili. At the town's library, author Mick Sullivan reads his Meat Rain book to the kids.
Sometimes strange things happen, and you're most certainly going to think this story is strange.
Janie Rice's brother brought her 2 kids to the library to hear the story. She says she heard it from her father, who heard it from his father.
I think it's just a wonderful thing that this small community has decided to take what was a very strange occurrence and make it into something that the entire community can get behind and support.
At the end of the festival, hundreds of people stand around a white split-rail fence near a field. A Cessna airplane flies over the area. 1,876 individually wrapped pieces of beef jerky spill out of the window. That's the work of Kurt Godey and his team. Thanks to them, a meat shower has rained in Bath County for the second time in 150 years. In Bath County, Kentucky, I'm Sherry Lawson.
A lot of holidays have their own particular kind of candy. At Christmas, you have candy canes. Valentine's Day has those conversation hearts with sayings on them like XOXO or Be Mine. At Easter, you might be thinking chocolate bunnies, and you'd be right. But it's also the time of year when you find those big chocolate eggs. Some regional churches sell them before the holiday. One West Virginia church has become known far and wide for its chocolate eggs. Last year, Zach Harold had this story.
When Pastor John Langenstein found out he had been assigned to Northview United Methodist Church in Clarksburg, West Virginia, everyone he talked to had the same response.
Oh, you're going to the egg church. Didn't matter who I was talking to. Oh, you're going to the egg church. And I said, okay, well, that'll be interesting. And then, oh, you're not ready.
John knew all about hard-boiled Easter eggs and plastic Easter eggs and the candy versions from Cadbury and Reese's. But the eggs for which Northview was famous were something much more special. Shiny chocolate Easter eggs decorated with delicate sugar flower petals, available in 3 generous sizes and 6 flavors: coconut, cherry nut, maple nut, solid chocolate, peanut butter, and Butterfinger. Every single one is handmade in Northview's basement, just like they have been for nearly 3 decades. And while Pastor John might run the show upstairs in the sanctuary, down here, he's just another volunteer. The kitchen is Serena Ashcraft's domain.
The molds are double-coated. Yep, and ready to go. We'll put filling in them. And we're doing maple nut this morning.
Serena and fellow member Janet Shanholz run the Egg Brigade. Serena in the daytime, Janet with the evening crew. Together, they order supplies, organize sales, and manage 5 shifts of volunteers each week.
We do a Monday, Tuesday, morning, and evening, and then a Saturday.
That's necessary because of the huge quantity of eggs Northview cranks out in a typical year.
Oh my gosh, Nadine, how many do we make?
Oh, it's between 6,000 and 8,000.
Yeah.
That's Nadine Holt, you heard in the background. She's in charge of mixing the fillings for those 6,000 to 8,000 eggs.
She's 84 years old.
87!
87? Oh my gosh, that even makes it more awesome.
Nadine has held this job since the very first Easter egg sale at Northview in 1997.
The people are dead now that I started with, and they just said, we're going to do Easter eggs. They you want to help? And I said, sure. Here I am.
The origins of the church-made chocolate Easter egg are kind of hazy, but these delicacies appear to have first shown up in the mid-20th century in central Pennsylvania. Today, the eggs seem to be largely a central Appalachian phenomenon, showing up in Pennsylvania as well as Ohio, Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, and, of course, West Virginia. The history of Northview's eggs is easier to track. In the late 90s, church member Ruth Jamote helped out with an egg fundraiser at nearby Bridgeport High School, which gave Northview's pastor at the time an idea.
And he said, you could do that for the church too, couldn't you? And so the recipes were copied down. These are the same recipes we've been using for 26 years.
The church did add a new flavor a few years into the sale, and it's now a customer favorite: Butterfinger eggs.
And you'll be surprised what it is. It's peanut butter and candy corn melted. Candy corn melted in the microwave and peanut butter.
The day after Halloween, we get a call from Serena, and she says, y'all better be out there. It's $1 today for a big bag, and we get all we can.
The recipes are typed out on a well-worn, stained sheet of copy paper. But Nadine doesn't need that. She knows all the recipes by heart, like the maple nut filling she's making today in her well-worn KitchenAid stand mixer.
2 sticks of oleo, a half a cup of water, and 4 teaspoons of maple flavoring, and 2 cups of chopped walnuts. Now I chopped all these nuts at home because we don't have time to chop them here and work.
Nadine makes sure the doughy filling is the perfect consistency. Not too sticky, not too dry.
See how it sort of winds up around the beater? It's pretty well much ready to come off.
Once the filling is ready, volunteers will ball it up and stuff it into the chocolate-coated egg molds. After the eggs are filled, they get one final layer of melted chocolate across the bottom to seal everything up. It looks easy, but the folks at Northview say this is actually the trickiest part of the whole process. Too little coating, and the filling will dry out and get crumbly. Too much on the bottom, and the egg will be difficult to remove from the mold, potentially ruining the whole thing. To do it right takes lots of practice, a steady hand, and the help of a secret weapon, Northview's collection of vintage 1970s hot plates.
So these pictures are from the 1997 season, I think. And you can see the exact same hot plates being used there.
Except they still had
still had paint at the time. Without trying, when this fundraiser was put together, these hot plates keep it at the temperature where the chocolate tempers.
Tempering is a delicate process where chocolate is heated to right around 110 degrees Fahrenheit before cooling. This stabilizes the crystals in the cocoa butter, creating that shiny, smooth, and shelf-stable look that you see in commercially made candies.
We've just not found anything as good as these 1970 whatever hot plates.
Now stuffed and coated, the eggs go into a freezer to set up. After 20 to 30 minutes, they're ready to come out and receive the finishing touch. A tiny handmade flour made from egg whites and more powdered sugar. Church member Andrea Foselair makes them at home on wax paper.
She starts before Christmas on these.
She had 6,000 different flours ready by the end of the year, and then she's probably going to make another 1,000 before we're done.
Completed eggs go just across the hall to a storage room.
Yeah, let's take you to the egg room. Yeah. This is a sacred spot, locked up all year just in preparation for when it can be filled. So we have 5 shelves here. They will all be filled completely by the end of the season.
This is where the eggs get packaged and labeled, ready to go to local beauty parlors, tire shops, and car dealerships. These local small businesses sell the eggs and collect the money for the church. $3 for babies, which are about the size of a Reese's egg, $7 for a half-pound medium egg, and $9 for a full-pound large egg, which looks like something a chocolate emu might lay. Northview also sets up its own sales around town.
We go to the courthouse, the mall.
They set us up last year they set us up down the Hallmark, and the Hallmark didn't want us down there because we were competition to them.
They put us next to the Easter Bunny, which was the best place we could have possibly been.
And Northview eggs are renowned well beyond the Clarksburg area.
I'll go to a meeting, for something up in Wheeling or down in Charleston, and somebody will say, "Oh, is it egg season? Medium cherry nut, small coconut. Make the medium a white chocolate. I want milk chocolate for the other." I mean, people are ready. They have their order. Sometimes before they say hello, here's my order. Go and get it in.
The church also ships eggs all across the country. The sale generates tens of thousands of dollars for the congregation each year, money they've used to purchase everything from new carpet to a new organ. But Pastor John says the biggest benefit of Northview's annual egg campaign is the way it brings his congregation together.
Yeah, Easter is a long season here. And this, one of the best parts of this whole process, other than the fact that, obviously it helps support the work of the church, is it's just fun. For as much work as it is and as much as a taskmaster Serena can be, we get,
We laugh, we joke. Yeah.
We got people from, all generations coming in. Last year, our youngest person helping out with eggs was 6 years old. And our oldest was, I think you win that, Nadine, 87.
I'm sure Pastor John.
That's the kind of legacy that will outlive even a 1970s hot plate.
That was Zach Harold reporting for the Rural Remix podcast from the Center for Rural Strategies. Warm weather brings out critters, which can be a problem. And while people in cities often get their trash picked up at the curb, folks who live in more rural places have to haul it to dumpster sites. Those sites are destinations not just for folks hauling trash, but also for bears seeking an easy meal. Now, some places have made moves to keep bears out of the trash, which also helps keep them alive. WVPB's Eric Douglas has more.
It's not every day I schedule an interview beside a trash can, but there's a reason for it. The dumpsters at Beckley West Apartments are special. They're designed to help keep bears out and keep bears and humans safe at the same time. Colin Carpenter, a black bear project leader with the West Virginia Division of Natural Resources, walked me through it.
This is an incredibly bear-resistant dumpster, and the thing that makes it bear-resistant is the fact that it's got metal lids on top, so the bear can't chew through it or pry it open, and it's got metal doors on the side that latch, and that is the key.
The area on top of the hill in the apartment complex used to have a bear problem.
It was rough. We had a lot of bears running around up here. They were tearing everything up, and at one point, we had a mama bear with 3 cubs getting in the trash cans. And
that was Jerry Kinsinger. He's lived at the apartment complex for 15 years.
One tried to get in this apartment up here, the mama bear. She smelled food or something, and she started going out the door. But it's got a lot better now. It's just the dumpsters. As long as you keep the doors closed and everything like that, it's good.
Carpenter explained how the dumpsters work and some of the user errors that limit their usefulness.
On here is this particular dumpster is not latched currently. Now, the good news is the door is closed because, as Jerry mentioned, one of the biggest issues that we have with bears getting into dumpsters is when people, you can have a bear-resistant dumpster in place, but if the folks don't close the doors, then you have problems. The other thing this has got is a locking lid. This device here, this bar, actually goes up over the top, and that's what keeps the bears from being able to open the lid. So these are perfect. This is what we could really use in a lot of places in West Virginia.
Bears are around all the time, but their human interactions hit twice a year.
Our bear complaints peak typically when natural foods are scarce. So in West Virginia, our worst months for human-bear conflicts are May and June. We've a lot of stuff going on in the bear world at that time. So you've got bears that are coming out of the den, all of the bears, males, females, cubs, adults, and they're coming off of a time of scarcity, right? They've fasted all winter, lived off their body fat. Now they're coming out at a time of year when natural food is not real abundant. So they're subsisting on green vegetation for those first couple months. Green vegetation insects.
And this is where the human interaction problem comes in.
So if they can come and spend a lot less time at a very high calorie food source, they're going to take advantage of it. So the other thing we have social stuff going on with bears. So we've got sows that have yearling cubs, ones that are 17, 18 months old, that will be going off on their own for the first time. We also have the bear breeding season going on. So in June and July is when bears are breeding. So all of this activity is coinciding with a time of food scarcity. We don't have the summer berry crops yet, and these bears are readily going to take advantage of easily obtained food sources.
And that's where DNR staff have to get involved. In the past, they would relocate bears to more appropriate habitats. But Carpenter says years of evidence has shown many bears don't fare well when that happens.
The scientific literature has learned that older bears, adult bears, especially males, do not fare as well when you move them. They either become an issue somewhere else, they die at higher rates because you're putting them in different habitat, and these transplants don't take. So typically we have higher success with moving females or young animals. So it's been almost 15 years ago we changed our policy to where we are not moving these older animals. So if we have a food condition habituated bear, it ends up getting dispatched. And it's a sad thing for the bear because these issues can be prevented, as we just saw with the dumpster.
Carpenter said there have been situations where people have hand-fed ice cream or other treats to bears. But that action means the bear will have to be put down.
And that's the thing. We cannot retrain once these animals have developed that behavior. And again, it's these older animals that typically are the ones that end up in this category. And oftentimes these are some of the. These are great looking animals. They're big. They're trophy animals from a hunting perspective and just from anyone's perspective. So it's a sad thing to see, especially when we know that these things can be easily prevented.
As with everything, money is a problem, and a bear-resistant dumpster costs more of it.
The issue that we've had is finding providers in West Virginia that are willing to actually provide these dumpsters. We're trying to build a relationship with bear biologists and the trash companies to say, hey, look, we've got these issues that we're facing out here in the world. Can you work with us to come up with solutions?
Since the early 1970s, when there were fewer than 500 bears in West Virginia, in about 8 to 10 counties in the eastern mountains, conservation efforts and tracking have changed that to 12 to 14,000 bears in all 55 counties. Of course, that is a success story, but it brings with it its own set of challenges. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Eric Douglas in Charleston.
In Virginia, Some localities have tried using bear boxes, but found that they can't seem to train people to use them right. Like where I live, in Floyd County. Kim Chitto took over as Floyd County's interim county administrator in July, and she was faced with an immediate conundrum. Residents dispose of their trash at 21 green box sites, which are home to 62 dumpsters. But there was a problem.
I was receiving pictures constantly, literally of a person driving up to a green box site, Route 8, very busy, and threw their household trash bag in, and a bear popped out during the day. That's a safety concern.
The county purchased bear-proof boxes, but they didn't really work. Not because of the design.
The other issue that has been consistent is the community just not assisting us, meaning closing the box.
So Floyd County spent much of 2025 playing a green box version of 3-card Monte. If a site got really bad, they'd move it to a different location up the road. The goal was to confuse the bears, but the shifts sometimes confused residents too. Floyd also upgraded a green box site on county land near town. The site was paved, fenced, and made accessible by a gate that opens during the day. Chitto says the county's also considering an idea that neighboring Franklin County is implementing, using staffed sites with the trash compactor.
One compactor will take the equivalent of 27 dumpster boxes.
Jeff Golden is Franklin County's Director of Public Works. He previously saw Henry County transition from unstaffed green box sites to staffed compactor locations. The staffed sites discourage illegal dumping by contractors and non-residents. The compactors also allow the county to manage fewer sites and to maintain them better.
You look at the size of Franklin County, it's 770 square miles. My drivers have to go to every one of the unmanned sites every day because you never know what's going to be in the dumpsters. It could be empty or it could be overflowing full.
Franklin County currently has 20 green box sites and 14 compactor sites. The goal is to convert entirely to compactors. Golden estimates the change will save the county between $100,000 and $150,000 annually. In Rocky Mount, I'm Mason Adams. Temperatures this time of year can be hard to pin down. We have warm days and then a bitter cold snap. This back and forth, which drives sap up and down maple trees, is how we get syrup. Highland County, Virginia, and its neighbors in West Virginia are some of the southernmost places in the U.S. to make maple syrup. Generations of people in these communities have turned tapping trees for syrup into a long-standing tradition. But modern producers are experimenting with new syrups while adapting to changing demands and a changing climate. From our Folkways archives, we bring you this story from Clara Hazlett.
In late winter in Highland County, maple syrup production is a visible part of the landscape. There are maple trees everywhere, adorned with metal buckets and laced with blue tubing. There's wood smoke rising from the sugar houses. There's a maple sugar road and a sugar holler and a sugar tree country store.
This is the sugar water. Look how clear it is.
Pat Lowry and his wife Valerie operate a sugar camp in Highland County called Back Creek Farms. Like many in the area, Pat's family has been making maple syrup here for generations.
I was born down the road about 3/4 of a mile. Every farm had a sugar shack, and it wasn't mainly for syrup, it was mainly for sugar.
Pat started helping his dad with their maple production when he was 8 years old. Valerie says he has maple syrup in his veins.
And he would make syrup 365 days a year if he could.
Each March, Pat and Valerie take part in the annual Maple Festival, where different sugar camps demonstrate the process of making syrup.
Did you know this is what comes out of the tree? Have you seen sugar water before?
Throughout the county, people make and sell all things maple, from maple donuts to maple barbecue. The festival's been a staple for over 60 years in Highland County, and the tradition of making syrup here started well before that. But over the years, practices have evolved as people like Pat and Valerie apply new ideas and techniques to production.
We're trying to break the traditions a little bit.
People kept asking, what do you have that's new? Nobody had anything that was new. It was, light syrup, medium syrup, dark syrup.
So they started experimenting. They aged syrup in whiskey barrels and infused the pure maple syrup with natural flavors like elderberry. At this year's Maple Festival, Pat's boiling down sap, or around here what they call sugar water, while Valerie offers samples to visitors.
Now we are going to do chili pepper and ginger. You all are going to try the hickory syrup. And hickory is made from the bark of a hickory tree. You'll get this next. So it's made from the bark of...
Gary Mongold of Petersburg, West Virginia, has been going to the Highland County Maple Festival since he was a kid.
What pulls the people to Highland County Maple Festival was the donuts. I don't know if you found a donut trailer up there or not, but the line is humongous.
The line was humongous. But this year, Gary didn't make it to the festival. He's busy with his own operation. It's his second year of making black walnut syrup.
I can take you up to here and show you a little better.
Gary's showing me around his sugar grove in his side-by-side. His property is full of walnuts, situated along a steep hillside that opens out to a panorama view of Petersburg, Moorfield, and Mount Storm.
All these trees down under here's got tubing to them. Then tubing runs all down here and makes a loop and goes down that holler and catches all these walnut trees back in here.
The process borrows the basic principles of maple sugaring. You drill a hole, tap a tree, and out comes the sugar water. Gary pumps the sap down the hill using an old dairy pump. When it's boiled down, it transforms into a dark syrup.
I can't describe it. It's awesome, I think. A little sweeter, but at least a better taste in your mouth. And I eat a bowl of ice cream pretty near every night with about 2 tablespoons on it. I just dearly love it. If I don't watch, I'll eat my profits up.
Black walnut syrup is an emerging industry, and Gary's one of just a handful of producers in the region. He's been working with Future Generations University out of Franklin, West Virginia, to conduct research on the process. They're trying to figure out the best techniques for production. You see, walnut trees don't produce as much sap as maples, and the sap has less sugar. In short, it takes more to make less. And unlike maple, walnut sap contains naturally occurring pectin, which, when it's boiled down, becomes a thick goo, making the syrup difficult to filter. But Gary's undeterred by these challenges, and he's even found a creative use for the pectin.
About a year ago, I listened to 89.5 PBS here in Petersburg, and they was talking about the Mayo Clinic working with pectin for arthritis and gout.
Gary's had both. So ever since, he's been taking a teaspoon of walnut pectin in his morning coffee. While pectin isn't FDA approved for this purpose, Gary says it's relieved pain from his arthritis.
It's been helping me.
Using the pectin, like making the syrup itself, is an experiment. And this season, there's been another variable shaking things up.
It hasn't been a very good season for sap to run. Mother Nature has not given us very good weather.
Last year, Gary got about 17 gallons of syrup. This year, he added even more taps, but the season's almost over, and so far, he's only gotten 5 gallons.
I'm 63 years old. This is the first year that I remember hardly no snow. We haven't yet to have much snow at all. We ain't even had enough to plow the roads here.
In order for the sap to run, you need to have freezing nights and temperatures above freezing during the day.
But when we get these climate change like we're having and get a 70-degree day, 3 70-degree days in February, that just put a stop to everything.
The water must have boiled.
Back in Highland County, Virginia, temperatures in February averaged nearly 40 degrees Fahrenheit, making it the second warmest February on record. Here's Pat Lowry from Back Creek Farms.
Honestly, in my 71 years, I have never seen a February like this.
Even the more conventional maple syrup producers were forced to adapt, like Doug Puffenbarger and his wife Terry.
It's been 4 or 5 generations of Puffenbargers, back from the 1700s.
They're not interested in making different tree syrups or trying out infusions.
We don't want to do that. We just want the real deal, and that's what we're doing.
But this year, the warm February dried up production mid-season. So when a cold snap hit in March, right around the Maple Festival, her husband decided to try something different. He re-tapped his maple trees, drilling new holes in hopes of collecting fresh sap.
He's never done that before. With the warm temperatures in February, the climate's changing, And that might be a new thing we're going to do.
Gary ended up retapping his walnut trees too. He got 5 more gallons of syrup, bringing his total for this year up to 10 gallons. And although it's significantly less than last year, he's optimistic.
It is kind of risky, I reckon. It's fairly good money when you start selling your product, but I don't look for every year to be bad. There's going to be a lot of good years.
And Gary's already thinking about next year. Around this area, tree sap generally runs from the end of January through the end of March. But Gary thinks that pattern might be changing.
We're going to try something. It's going to be new, and we're going to try tapping the first week of December.
And in Highland County, there's talk of switching the March Maple Festival to earlier in the season, too, when there's a higher likelihood of cold nights, warm days, and sugar water on the boil. For Inside Appalachia, I'm Clara Hazlett.
Till next time, thanks for joining us as we journey throughout Appalachia. Our theme music is by Matt Jackford. Other music this week was provided by Ron Mullinex and Jerry Milnes, John Ingram, Tim and Dave Bing, Jeff Ellis, and Hello June. Bill Lynch is our producer. Abby Neff is our associate producer. Our executive producer is Eric Douglas. Kelly Libby is our editor. Our audio mixer is Patrick Stevens. We had help this week from Folkways editors Jennifer Gorin, Chris Julin, Nicole Musgrave, and Mallory No Pain. You can find us on Instagram @InAppalachia. You can also send us an email to insideappalachia@wvpublic.org. Visit wvpublic.org/InsideAppalachia to subscribe to our newsletter and stream all of our stories. Or look for Inside Appalachia on your favorite podcast app. Inside Appalachia is a production of West Virginia Public Broadcasting.